format with the 10 big archetypes we might have our eyes on here. Monty.
Well, Maria, on the first slide of archetypes, I've got my eyes on the Azorius archetype of Eerie Investigation, but also Rakdos Serial Sacrifice and Gruul Delirious Rampage, very much in the mix for some of the strongest archetypes in the format.
And speaking of strong archetypes, Childhood Fears, the Boros deck, is a very, very good deck in this format if you can get it. Now, most of these archetypes, and you could argue all the archetypes in this draft format, are quite good depending on if you get the cards from the deck. That's what makes this format so appealing. But of these 5, Childhood Fears, and I'd say Manifest Dread, the Simic archetype, 2 of the big favorites amongst the pros here in the room.
Let's check in with our 3-0 drafters as well. These are the people who went 3-0 at the first draft yesterday morning. How did they convert here through the rest of the day? Of course, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz 3-0'd that draft and then decided, hey, I'm done with losing games in Magic the Gathering. Didn't lose the rest of the way there. A lot of other 3-0 drafters, turns out draft, very, very important at these tournaments. Turn themselves into good records here through day 1 of competition. Some people, though, not so lucky there. One of the new mechanics, Manifest Dread, here from Duskmorn, is very, very cool, and Monty's going to give us a closer look at it.
Yeah, Maria, there is quite a lot to love in the Duskmorn limited format, but one of the things that I personally really latched onto, and a lot of players have as well, is the Manifest Dread ability. This is the latest evolution of the morph sort of style of a 2/2 face-down nameless creature, but Manifest Dread adding this extra element of looking at 2 cards, getting to choose one while fueling your graveyard. You get some information, your opponent gets some information, really creates an interesting game. And by having it appear at common across all the colors, it is a key part of this limited format. But specifically, something that I really enjoy is what Manifest Dread has done specifically for the Simic archetype. Simic historically has been one of the worst color combinations in most limited formats. But here, Simic is the dedicated Manifest Dread archetype, and you see some signposts on commons like Growing Dread and Oblivious Bookworm, alongside Paranormal Analysts and Threats Around Every Corner. These cards are very, very strong, and allowing Simic to take advantage of Manifest Dread as a whole archetype has made it one of the best archetypes in the format, but also the best Simic has been in Limited
Absolutely.
in years.
Yes, it's very, very exciting. Go draft some Simic if you haven't already, everybody. It's really, really great. Well, let's take a look at our top pods this morning for draft, because we're going in leaderboard order. We've got some stack pods, Cedric.
Boy, do we. And you want to talk about a stack pod. No better way to start than the first one here. You've got Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, of course, our reigning world champion, 7-0, first place in the standings. You got Simon Nielsen, Seth Manfield. Of course, Seth is a former world champion. Simon Nielsen is our reigning player of the year, looking to go back-to-back. And as you'll see in the ordering here, Simon is actually going to be passing to Seth. Seth is looking to play spoiler and actually win player of the year himself. And oh, by the way, Marcio Carvalho in that pod, just a 2-time world runner-up. Second pod, Alexander Hayne, a Pro Tour champion. Shuhei Nakamura, Hall of Famer and a former player of the year. Eli Cassis, a world runner-up among the players in this pod. Draft pod number 2 is certainly no slouch. So now we move on to draft pod number 3, headlined by Reed Duke and Shota Yosaoka. And however, a bunch of players who are doing very well that are looking to make a name for themselves by getting their first top finish in a world championship. And then we move on to draft pod number 4. Now, I mentioned Javier Dominguez flying under the radar here a little bit, and this is a perfect encapsulation of that. He is in a pod against a bunch of players that have a record that is worse than Javi, right? Javi's 5-2. He's got the worst record as far as breakers are concerned at 5-2, and then you have other players who are in 4-3. You got a lot of players here in 4-3 that are like, hey, I got to win out to be able to make the top 8 of this thing. Javi obviously wants to win as well, but Javier Dominguez is a player who he doesn't feel like he's 5-2, right? We've talked about Simon. We've talked about JED, Jean-Emmanuel. We've talked about Seth. 3 of the best players to ever do it are having a fantastic tournament. Javier could also be considered one of the best players to ever do it, and he's just kind of laying low.
That's what he's been doing all season.
He's been laying low. We're not talking a ton about him, but let's say he 3-0s his pod, and all of a sudden he's 8-2. Oh, we're going to be talking about him.
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about him.
He's been just under the radar,
That's right. So this pod is very, very important for him right now, because if he's able to 2-1 or 3-0 that pod, all of a sudden he's back in the conversation probably around player of the year too. So this could get really good.
Ooh, excellent. Well, let's check out who our featured drafter will be this morning. Who do you think it is? Quick guess.
Could be anyone.
Could be anyone. It's JED. 7 top finishes. Can he make it 8? Can he do the next to impossible and go back-to-back in world championships? Well, he's got to win out here in draft this morning, or at least do extremely well to put himself in top 8 contention. Let's take a look at his path here to the top 8. Excuse me, on his way to the top 8, maybe.
Yeah, you just count it.
Ahead.
Yep.
I'm thinking ahead.
You one of the script writers?
Yeah, I'm thinking ahead here for JED. Of course, yesterday didn't lose a single match. Look at all those W's in the results column, and went through some pretty good players on his way to doing it, including Simon Nielsen and Ely Cassis. Let's check out our broadcast team as well, who will be hanging out with you here this weekend, bringing you all of the action from World Championship 30. We've got a great team behind the scenes bringing you all of the action from the feature match area. Welcoming back Paul Cheon. Paul Cheon's hanging out with Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth. We're so happy to have him back, as well as Ailey Loney and Corey Baumeister. They always have so much fun in the booth. I wish I could be in there with them. So an awesome team here this weekend. Well, it's time for draft number 2 on day number 2 of action here at World Championship 30. I'm going to send it on over to Marshall and number 1 arena drafter, Paul Cheon.
And by the way, you are back to number 1, right?
We'll talk about it later.
He took his break here just to reclaim the crown. No doubt about it. Welcome back to the booth here at Magic the Gathering World Championship 30. That's Paul Cheon. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and we're about to do our favorite thing, which is draft. This is Duskmorn draft, which we're going to head down, and we're going to be seeing Jean-Emmanuel Depraz sit down. Jean-Emmanuel, not only one of the best players, full stop, in the world. I mean, he is the reigning world champion, as you heard at the news desk. He's also an absolute top-tier limited player.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I think he had one of the best of 3 win rates on Arena, something around 80%. And then he said, you know, this one I'm not doing as well. I'm 10% lower than what I normally do. So I'm like, are you like a 75% win rate? He's like, yeah, around there.
Yeah, unbelievable. He crushes at these high-level drafts as well. It translates across the board for him. You can take a look at the table that he's at. It is absolutely stacked. Seth Manfield, Simon Nielsen fighting it out up there, as well as Marcio Carvalho. And don't overlook Lucas Duco down in the lower left there. He's a veteran of the game and an accomplished limited player himself.
Absolutely stacked pod here. I mean, just look at that upper left corner there.
That is a death row for sure. As the players come out there, and you can see some of them. There's Simon Nielsen coming out to do his draft. We got a chance to watch him draft yesterday, but as I mentioned, we're going to be watching Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, our only undefeated player left in the field. He is 7-0. And as we were watching the news desk segment here from the booth, Paul, you remarked he's only lost 2 games yesterday.
He is doing so well. And one nice thing here with JED is I'm really interested in how he drafts. He drafts very different
Welcome
than how I
players to
normally
this
draft.
second draft for the Worlds. I'm Emilien, I will be the one calling the draft for you. First thing, please do not pay attention to anything that is said on the rest of the Worlds. We will only focus on my voice and my instructions. We will first draft, then I will have instruction for you about how we're gonna register what you drafted. The very first thing I need you to do is to open pack A and count 14 cards face down for me.
Yeah, so that's our head judge for our feature match area, Emilien Wilding. He's going to be guiding the players through the draft. This is a little bit different than a draft at your local game store, but not a lot. This is just called a timed draft, where the judge will tell you when you can look at the cards and how much time you have to pick them, and then when it's time to pick one, and then where to pass them after that. And that's just to make sure that everything stays
So every time I give you some time, I will also give you first a 10-second warning and later a 5-second warning, so you know when to focus on your pick. Please always count how many cards you're passing, how many cards you're receiving, and shuffle them before passing. Please pick up your cards. You have 40 seconds.
Okay, here we go. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz into draft number 2. What does he find? He finds, ooh, there's a good one right away. Inquisitive Glimmer at Uncommon.
Oh, wow, look at
Get
this
out.
double
and
rare
a Silent
pack.
Hall Creeper as well. That's a Twitching Doll behind it?
A Twitching Doll and a Silent Hall Creeper, and you can kind of go either way with this. Both
Definitely.
cards are really, really strong. Twitching Doll gives you a lot more flexibility in how you draft your deck because, of course, it's just a fantastic card, and if you're a base green deck, you can splash multiple colors, so I really don't think you can go wrong with either, but it looks like JED going for the Silent Hall Creeper here, just because, like I said, you can't really go wrong with either, and this card is also just fantastic.
Excellent card. Only 2 mana, easy on the color requirements
13
as
cards
well.
to your left.
And if it survives a turn, you will get your card back. Usually is kind of the first mode, but at any rate, you can start checking off the boxes there, and it is awesome. All right, our next pack.
You can
start for
watch your cards.
JD here. Orphans of the Wheat, he's pulled it. Oh, there's a Spine Seeker Centipede. Oh, but there's a Threats around in every corner. I love that card, Paul.
Yeah. I mean, I love me a Spine Seeker Centipede, but Threats is just a better card in my opinion. I don't think he's going to take Orphans of the Wheat here. It just seems a little bit early here. It looks like he does value being proactive here. I would take Threats around every corner here. It just makes it so that you can just draft a nice multicolor deck. It just gets you so far ahead on cards. Whenever you play Threats around every corner and another Manifest card, I just don't feel like playing anymore.
I thought I was getting a little nervous because he kept that Orphans of the Wheat pulled to the front, but it looks like it was just a little fake out because he did take Threats around every corner, and I'm with you, Paul. I can't watch my opponent do this, and I can't have this on the table long enough for me. I love every second of it. Branch Snapper, there's a Glimmer Light.
This one, certainly a much weaker pack here. Not a whole lot of great options. You have Glimmer Light, Branch Snapper. I think Glimmer Light might just be the most flexible card that you can take out of this pack just because this pack is really quite weak. And Glimmer Light is a card that you just kind of are going to play in any deck, the first copy. So I think this is a perfectly fine pick here for JD. Now remember, he can still, Blue-White is also a very strong color combination that he can end up in. So with Silent Hall Creeper and a Glimmer Light start, that's also a nice enchantment start.
He'll be a little bummed about passing the Inquisitive Glimmer, but you can't pass.
Pick up your cards.
Hall Creeper's got to go in the pile.
Yeah, but the person he's passing to definitely took the Twitching Doll, right?
Right.
That pack. Ooh.
Let's see what he finds here. This is his 4th pick.
So not a whole lot of blue and green here. The best cards, it looks like he really values Orphans of the Wheat here. There's a Final Vengeance and a Disturbing Mirth. 4th pick Disturbing Mirth, right? I know you have a lot of good cards here, but we saw how effective it was when Simon drafted the card, but it would be a very big pivot here.
He takes the Orphans of the Wheat. That one was a card he pulled up in the 2nd pick. To the front, at least showing that he was considering it.
Pick up your cards. You have 25 seconds.
Can be a decent threat.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, with that Silent Hall Creeper, he's now keeping himself open to a blue-white deck, a blue-green deck, just kind of seeing what the packs do. And Orphans of the Wheat is quite nice. There's a lot of ways to go wide, so this thing can attack. It helps trigger your survival cards. So just a very solid 2-drop.
Okay, he's got Underwater Tunnel pulled to the front here.
Yeah. Not the most exciting pick, but at the same time, it's a card that almost always makes your deck if you're a blue deck. If you have a blue-white Eerie theme going or a blue-green Manifest theme, it's a card that slots really well into both strategies.
Yeah, he's had a couple of kind of filler picks, but they're good. Underwater Tunnel and the Glimmer Light are totally fine.
It's a baseball bat, Altenac. Everybody loves an Altenac.
Yeah, Altenac is a nice one. There's another Branch Snapper. He's seen a lot of erratic apparitions, but he's not really moving in that direction. Looks like he's looking at the Branch Snapper or maybe the Altenac here.
Yeah, I like the Branch Snapper more. I just don't think Altenac is particularly strong. I think everybody wants to live the dream and draft 3 Say Its names and draft the Altenac. But I think Branch Snapper is just a safer pick. And just, the difference between 6-man and 7-man is huge.
It really is. It usually ends up being a little over 2 turns of gameplay. That's a lot. Keys to the House, Tunnel Surveyor's fine.
Yeah, you don't like it as much in blue-green, but there is still a chance that you could end up in blue-white here, and Tunnel Surveyor certainly works well, especially with that Orphans of the Wheat that you could play on turn 2.
Okay, Keys to the House. Again, it feels like he's picking up like okay card, kind of filler card, okay card, kind of filler. But again, playable filler. Like not bad cards, just
pick up your
kind
cards,
of in the middle type stuff. But nothing to really grab him in a particular direction just yet.
Yeah, it's another Altenac. Probably just going to take another Slimy Aquarium here.
Yeah.
5
seconds. Just a totally fine filler level card to put in your deck. The nice thing with Keys to the House, now that you have threats around every corner plus Keys to the House, it keeps you open to perhaps a splash. Right now you have 2 ways to splash. And if you also need Delirium, it's an artifact, right? It's not a huge cost.
You have 10 seconds.
Daggermaw Megalodon, Fear of Lost Teeth.
Yeah, I imagine this is just a Megalodon.
His wheel pack? This is his wheel. So he wheeled that Fear?
Draft and pass 5 cards to your left.
He's just going to take the Megalodon. Again, not an exciting pickup for him.
Not an exciting pickup here, but
it's worth noting we are at the World Championship here.
Absolutely.
Tough table.
Exactly. You're just not going to get the insane, I had to cut all these awesome cards from my deck. You're kind of scrapping for every playable in the World Championship here.
Yeah, if you're looking at the decks that the players play here and you're comparing them to your arena decks, for example, you should
draft and pass 3 cards to your
doing
left.
a little bit of a conversion on that. They're not going to be as good as your average arena deck.
The one thing though is it was really tough, I feel like, to figure out where
Draft,
JD
pass
was
to
even
cards
supposed
to
to
your
be. All the
left.
packs just
Pick
seem
up your
really
cards, you
bad.
have 5 seconds.
Messy, very messy. And I feel like I
Draft,
can easily
pass one
put
card to your
myself in
left.
his seat and kind of go, well, I guess I'll, okay,
You now
sure.
have 60
And
seconds
it's
to
just
review
nothing
your
to
picks.
really grab onto just yet as
Once
far
you
as
have done
colors or
reviewing your cards,
a particular
please put them back
archetype.
down in a
The only
single
thing that seemed
face-down
vaguely
pile.
open was red-black, but it was a little late, and it wasn't like wide open.
Right. He got a couple of aquariums late, but you know that's a card you kind of get late anyways. We didn't see any glimmer bursts or meat lockers or anything of that nature, or even that many vanish from sites. But hey, you still have a couple of 2s here. Again, with the mana fixing, it does give you that flexibility. We have 2 additional manifest effects here with threats around every corner. So, you know, okay start here, but certainly could do a lot
20
better. But
seconds.
given the power level of just the cards in general that we saw, it doesn't look like at least the people to JD's left and right also likely don't have the best decks here.
Yeah, that's the other thing that you have to realize is, what did he pass?
Yeah, exactly. If
Nothing
you're
good.
taking a mediocre cards,
Put all
pick
your
3,
cards
4,
back
and
in a
5,
single pile
that means
face down.
the person you're
Any
passing is
cards
also
you
going to take a
draft will
mediocre
join
card out
that
of
pile.
that.
It wasn't like
We will this time
anything
pass to
great.
the right.
Again, the only
Please
little
open
notable thing was the
booster B
red-black.
and count
Right.
14
You know, the
cards
disturbing
face down.
mirth and the final vengeance
Make
in that
sure you
one
do
pack
not
kind of
leave any
stood
card
out.
in the
But
envelope.
that was one.
Right, but then you didn't see any more
It wasn't-
sacrifice cards.
right.
It's not like you saw an Egotist or a Skin Ripper 7th pick. Nothing obvious there.
So a bunch of middling cards here with a couple of highlights at the top, or actually at the bottom of the screen there. His first 2 picks were excellent, and then the rest are kind of, I don't know, we'll find out. I think this pack is the one
Pick
that,
up your cards, you
needs
have
to get
40
JD
seconds.
on the particular plan. Let's see if he can do that.
Okay, there's a Meat Locker, Curse
Yeah.
Windbreaker, ooh, Patchwork Beastie as well.
Ooh, very nice.
So I think it's probably a choice between one of the 2 uncommons there. It looks like he's also looking at Meat Locker. I don't take that generally as highly just because you can also get Glimmer Burst as a card draw effect.
20
Beastie is a
seconds.
nice 1-mana play that you can play, but then the Curse Windbreaker works really well in the blue-green archetype just because it's a manifest payoff. And sometimes I find in my blue-green decks I have trouble closing out games, and being able to give something flying in the late game on one of your green monsters also helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's going to go with the Patchwork Beastie here. I like this pick.
Yeah, can't go
Draft
wrong with that.
and
Honestly,
pass
this just,
40
especially even in a
13
blue-green deck,
cards
which you don't
to
think
your
of
right.
as the dedicated Delirium deck, it's actually secretly also a blue-green card.
Totally.
Delirium
Every
is
time you
also
manifest.
yeah, Delirium is also just a blue-green mechanic, just because you have so
up your
much
cards.
manifest.
You
It's
have
so
35
easy to
seconds.
turn on Delirium in blue-green.
Let's see what he gets second pick here in our
Okay,
second pack.
Vacuum.
He's got a Ghost Vacuum.
Yeah, and, oh, there's an Analyst here. And a Growing Dread.
Wow. Okay, so he's got Paranormal Analyst and Growing
20
Dread to
seconds.
choose from. This could be a way to move forward. I think the Analyst
I'd
in
take the
general is more
Analyst.
powerful, right?
I think so.
Growing Dread's nice,
Growing Dread is good, but Analyst
is dumb.
when you kind of go off with this, it just every time you manifest, it's look at the top 2 cards, put the best one in your hand,
Yes.
and then also make a 2/2.
Totally.
And he just needs
Draft
more
and
2-drops as
pass
well. So
12
it's just
cards to
the
your
perfect
right.
pickup for his. Of course, Growing Dread also being a 2-drop.
Would be good, but a little more mana intensive, a little less powerful. So Paranormal,
Pick up your
Paranormal
cards.
Analyst here for Jean-Emmanuel.
You have
That
30 seconds. You
could
will
be a
receive a
signal for him.
10-second warning.
See if he can pick up something again to kind of stay on this route. Oh, there's a Brood Spinner.
There's a Brood
Say
Spinner.
its name.
Yeah, as the best card in this pack. I'm not a huge fan of Rootwise Survivor unless
It's
I'm drafting
okay.
maybe the red-green aggressive Delirium deck. Brood Spinner, I mean, with the mana fixing
10
that you
seconds.
have, I think it's worth splashing here potentially. I just don't see anything else that's powerful enough to take.
Yeah.
Brood Spinner's really strong.
You saw him bring that Prana Fly up, like, doesn't really
Draft
want
and
that,
pass
so I like the
11 cards to your
potential
right.
for a more powerful option. Plus,
Also-
Patrick Beastie and all that, too.
Yeah, and a great card to manifest
Yeah.
as well, right? You just end of turn, flip it up, and then you untap and
Pick
you
up your
just
cards.
make 5
You have
1/1s.
25 seconds.
Let's see what he finds
Okay.
here.
Thresher's decent.
Wickerfolk Thresher's fine.
And it looks like it's the pick here, though, just because there's nothing else really in blue or green. So, again, given that you can get Delirium pretty easily, we
10
do have
seconds.
several 4-drops already. Threats around every corner, double Slimy Aquarium. This is 4-drop number 4. So you do kind of have to be mindful about that. So probably going to be favoring cheaper things to play now that he
Draft
has the 4th
and pass
4-drop
10
here.
cards
But
to your right.
very, very solid card here. You know, I will note that the Thresher, when I first saw this, I thought this card was absolutely bananas.
Same.
It's a very solid
It's
card.
fine.
It's a very
Pick up
solid
your
card.
cards.
If you
You
can
have
get the Delirium,
25
it's great,
seconds.
but it's not nearly as good as I thought it was. when I first
Definitely.
played with it.
It looks better. than it actually plays. A few more black cards here.
Comeback wrong.
And also Final Vengeance.
Oh yeah, we are slamming comeback wrong here. That's
10
if
seconds.
you already have a brute spinner, you have good mana fixing, right? You take the comeback wrong. It's just another great removal spell to splash. By the way, every time I play an Overlord, my opponent plays this card. It's happened like 4 times already. It's ridiculous.
That's really rough.
You will now receive 5 seconds warning.
Great pack 2 here so
Pick up
far
your
for
cards.
JED.
You have
Yeah,
20
this has been
seconds.
much more solidifying for him into a colored trio.
So there's a Slimy Aquarium. This is what, Slimy Aquarium number 3?
It would be if he takes it, and he probably should here. Maybe the first Final Vengeance is worth a pick, but this
5
is not a
seconds.
dedicated sacrifice deck.
Oh, it looks like he's taking. He does have a couple of Slimy Aquariums to throw away once you get
and
the
pass
value. So
8
maybe
cards
he's
to your
considering that.
right.
He's just like he's probably just thinking, look, I need a little bit more interaction. I know I don't have a ton of good things to sacrifice just
Pick up
yet,
your cards.
but I'm going to take this here because I know
You
I'm
have
going to
20
splash
seconds.
black. This pack looks like a bit of a miss here.
Yeah, this is his 7th pick in pack 2, and yeah.
You're just not splashing any of these cards. You could take maybe a found
5
footage or
seconds.
perhaps speculate on the blue-red land in case you might want to splash that as well if you
Draft
want
and
to
pass
There
7
are
cards to your
duels that
right.
he would really, really like here.
That's not one of them.
Yeah. This has been awesome. This
up your
is
cards.
navigating
You
a
have 15
difficult
seconds.
spot.
Well, that's the nice thing about being a base green deck, though, right? It gives you that flexibility because you go, well, you know, if my
5 seconds.
2 primary colors aren't open, well, I'll just splash another one and still find a way to make it work.
It's going to take Greenhouse.
Draft and
rickety
pass 6 cards to
gazebo,
your
but
right.
would be surprised if that actually made it in. Though sometimes JD surprises me.
Yeah, card's a bit slow,
Pick up
but
your cards.
if you play
have
against a
10
slower
seconds.
matchup,
You will
I
no
think it's a
longer
perfectly
receive
fine
another
sideboard card,
one.
right?
There you
The
go.
games go along.
There is a lot of winter misanthropic guides floating around the table. Don't know
Draft
if it's
and
going
pass
to find
5
a home,
cards to your
though.
right.
Not
Oh, it did!
surprising.
It did.
Not surprising.
Look at it.
What would be surprising
Pick
if
up your
that
cards.
ends up in JED's
You have 10
deck,
seconds.
Very surprising.
the old double splash. Although I guess at this point, could he even possibly just be a black-green deck splashing blue?
He could be. Yeah, that's true.
Draft and pass 4 cards to your right.
But
Don't
this
make a
pick kind
sound.
of makes me think he wants to lean into being blue-green instead because there were a couple of common black
Pick up your
creatures he could have
cards.
taken
You
out
have
of
5
that pack.
seconds.
Right. Yeah. Appendage Amalgam is
Draft and pass 3 cards to your
Victor,
right.
I wanted it to be good, and it's just
Not
not at all.
not good.
Pick up your cards.
Crack Skull probably
5
for the
seconds.
sideboard here for JED in case he finds a matchup. And there's the insurance policy,
and
the
pass
Malevolent
cards
to your right.
Chandelier.
I think that card is fine if
Pick
you
up
have
your
the
cards. You
absolute,
have
just
5
the
seconds.
craziest manifest deck, which
Yeah.
it doesn't look like JED has, so might not make
Draft,
it make
pass a
its way
single
into the deck
card to
here.
your right.
Smoky Lounge, second
Please
to
add it
last.
to your pile, and you have 90 seconds to review what you have drafted
And
so far.
Fear of the Dark is the
When you
last
have
card
finished
here. So
reviewing,
I am
please
curious.
put it
Let's
back
take a look at how
face
many
down in a
blue
single
cards
pile.
we see from him here.
I will give
Well,
you
of course, with the
20
Silent
seconds
Hall
warning.
Creeper, yeah, it makes
Right,
sense that you
and
want
then
to be.
the at least double Aquarium, and then the Paranormal Analyst. Yeah, you're pretty committed.
Yeah, and he's got 3 2-drops now, so I think JD still wants to continue looking for Wary Watchdogs or Manifest Dread, just more 2-mana plays, perhaps even, just a bite spell, right? Just something to play on turn 2, just because it looks like he's got plenty of things to do at the top end of the curve here. He's got a couple of interactive spells, so Pack 2 was great. You started out the draft with 4 uncommons and a rare. Can't really ask for too much more than that.
Yeah, you can see he has the Paranormal Analyst, the Hall Creeper, the Glimmerlight, and then potentially the Brood Spinner at 2. Currently, the way he's fanning things out, the 3s are lacking.
There's only a few 2s and some 3s, so I think
There's 4 2s, and then I don't think he's going to play the Greenhouse.
right. But then the Brood Spinner, you can't really count it as a 2, right? Just
point.
because you're not going to be able to play that reliably on turn 2. But so that's going to be JED's kind of primary focus. A little more interaction would be nice
20
and cheap
seconds.
spells because he's. I kind of like where he's at the top end of the curve.
Okay, so interaction, cheap spells, and then would you like to see him solidify 2 colors with a splash a little more than it is right now? Because
Yeah,
look at what he's fanning out. This is not just obviously green-blue with black.
Yeah, I think he would prefer to do so.
Put back
I
your
don't know that you're going
cards
to just
face
see
down in
him
a single
randomly
pile.
take a murder or
The
something and
cards you
just try to
draft
make
from
it
the
work.
booster 3 will be
But
added to that pile
of
face down.
course, it'll just all depend on the mana fixing that he picks up, the
Please
lands that he
open booster
gets,
number C.
and
Because he
count
is
down
light
that you
on
have 14
mana fixing
cards.
right now, right? It's
And
just
as a
a
reminder,
So
we
this
will
is going to
pass
be a
to the
tricky
left.
pack 3 because he's going to be like, he's going to have to think, do I need to prioritize fixing? Do I need to take the cheap card? And he might have a lot of those decisions, and this might be a very tough pack 3 here for JED.
Yeah, or it could be like yesterday. We saw Simon Nielsen kind of on the edge, and then pack
get all
3 was
rares.
like, here you go.
Double Undead Sprinter for the win.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
You will
we'll see a
receive
bunch of
20 seconds
manifest here
warning,
for
pick up your
JD in
cards,
the third.
you have
Oblivious
40
Bookworm,
seconds.
maybe,
That
right?
would be a great start. There's a Spine Seeker
Okay.
Centipede. That is an absolute must-have item
Unable
for his
to
deck
screen.
right now. Oh, Balustrade
Oh.
Worm, though. This is a tough pick, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't have that many 3s, and he needs fixing, so the Centipede's there, but the Worm is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even unable
20
to
seconds.
scream is
Yes.
a defensible play too, right? Just because you need that extra removal. So doesn't look like he has it at the top of his priority list. It looks like he's deciding between the 2 green cards, but taking the power, taking the rare.
He's just going to go big here. It's got to really hurt his soul to pass the Spine Seeker Centipede, but
Right.
Balustrade Worm is awesome.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane here. It's just a 5 mana,
Draft
5/5
and pass
trampling
13
haster
cards
that
to your
comes
left.
back. And then especially in a deck that has a bunch of manifest, you can just put this into the yard too if you want.
Paul, it can't be countered.
Pick up
That
your
actually
cards,
is relevant
you
in
have
this
Is it
45
a
seconds.
little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah.
Yeah,
Twist Reality, is
yeah.
a card people play. What is that? Oh, Withering Torment, sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, there's an
Bookworm, there it
Oblivious
is.
Bookworm. There it is. That's the one you want to
There's
see.
He's got that curse recording up because he had that in his deck yesterday and
20
actually
seconds.
used it to good effect here. But he's
Yeah.
going to slam this Bookworm. This is one of many mythic uncommons in the set, but this is the perfect card for
Oh,
JED.
my God.
Wanted a 2-drop, wanted a bomb? Well, what about both?
And it's even a nice, 2/3. Like, it's a good creature.
I don't know
to
why
block.
it's a 2-3, Marshall.
I don't know either. It could have been a 1/1, and I would have played it
Oh, yes.
happily.
Draft and pass 12 cards
If
to
it
your
was
left.
a 1/1, it would have also been more in line with its looter roots.
Right, yes.
But instead, it's just a great blocker
It's just
in a format
2-3,
full of
blocks,
2/2s.
blocks all manifest,
Yeah.
draws
You
you
will receive
cards,
10
does
second
everything.
warnings. Pick up your cards. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, great start here for JD.
Okay, there's an Inspector for a 3-mana play if you
Vanish
want
from
that.
sight.
But there's also
Fear of exposure.
Okay.
There's a Monstrous Emergence.
Right, so Monstrous Emergence could be the thing because you still want more things to do early. It's a removal spell. You can put on the draw. You play this as a removal spell turn 2, so I think that's fine.
I would take it.
10
I do.
seconds.
Yeah, I think you're taking the Emergence. I do like Twist Reality and Vanish as well as effects, but I just don't like them more, particularly because JED has a pretty big need for interaction here
Yeah.
and cheap things.
Draft.
Yeah, and Monstrous
pass
Emergence
11
with its
cards to
extra
your left.
clause of being able to reveal from hand is a complete game changer here.
Right.
If that was a normal, like even just a bite spell, I don't think he could take it because he's
Right.
got all these expensive cards
Pick up your
that
cards.
he's trying
You
to
have
get
25
to, and this
seconds.
will actually get him there.
Great with the land cyclers that he has. Too.
Definitely. Oh, wow,
that's
a
a late
Gremlin
Gremlin
Tamer.
Tamer.
Hello,
Oh.
friend.
It's unexpected.
Yeah.
I think he's just taking the Inspector here most likely. Just nothing. There's literally nothing else I think that could.
What
even
if
work
he's
this
of
deck.
the
10 seconds
Scrabbling
left.
Skull Crab persuasion?
You know, if you're blue-white, I could see a world where maybe you take it. Obviously, you take the Gremlin Tamer, but
Right.
I'm not super high on the Skull Crab. No way.
Oh, he's just taking it.
Draft and pass 10 cards to your left.
Oh, it is a cheap
Oh,
card, I
dude.
guess.
We're going to get a text from
You think
Luis
he's
in
gonna
like
main deck that
2
card?
minutes. Like in 2 minutes, he's going to say,
No
I told you
way.
guys.
I
Luis
mean,
loves the Skull Crab too.
who am I
Pick up your
to
cards.
question the
You have
world
25
champion? But
seconds.
wow, I did not expect that. Maybe he has more enchantments than I thought he did. All right, wary watchdog. Are you going to surprise me and take the 2/7 here?
No, he's not going to take
Okay.
your failed
He's-
test.
he's
He's going to pass this test and
Okay,
take the
all right.
Watchdog.
10 seconds
There is
left.
a dual land there, though, right? Is that the blue?
That's a blue-black one.
blue-black?
Oh,
That's actually really
He
tempting.
needs more 2s. I think he's got a couple of mana fixers already. 3 mana fixers, right?
Yeah.
He's got land
Draft
cyclers.
and pass
Oh,
9
yeah, he's taking-
cards
The-
to
these
your
are
left.
2 needs that he's comparing there,
And
right?
we did
Like,
talk
he
about
needs
that
to
as we
use-
were going to the.
Absolutely. So I don't
Pick
blame
up
him
your
for taking the
cards.
Watchdog. That is
You
a
have
close
20
pick, though.
seconds. You will
Hey, but
receive
besides,
a 5
Surveil,
second
it gets you the
warning.
land you need.
Tale of Tameo. There's a
Oh.
Glimmer Burst.
Yeah, that's
Rootwise
the pick
Survivor.
for sure. I
Because
don't
it
know.
triggers the crab, you mean?
He took the skull crab. So
But it
yeah,
triggers- it's a
does
combo,
it does
yeah.
trigger the skull crab. You
5
are right.
seconds.
Comboing out.
Yeah, Glimmer Burst is excellent.
Nice pickup there for Jean-Emmanuel. This pack has been good.
Draft and pass
He
8
has found a
cards to
bit
your
of
left.
direction, and he's checked some of the boxes that he needs to check. It does feel like the black splash is getting less and less
Pick
as
up
we
your
go,
cards.
like him
You have
not
20
taking that
seconds.
dual land, for example.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey,
but there's a blue-green land
blue
here.
green that
I'd be
helps.
shocked if he doesn't take it here, unless there's a centipede or something. Yeah, this is
Right.
definitely a blue-green. I still think he's going to splash the black. right? I think you're still probably, especially just the
5 seconds.
come back wrong. Come back wrong, and the Brute Spinner at the very least. Those are likely going to be splashed,
Draft
given that you have
and
threats
pass
around every
7
corner.
cards to your
And now
left.
picking up the Lakeside Shad makes the splash a little more palatable here.
Definitely.
Pick up your cards. You have 15 seconds.
Oh, no
another
way!
analyst?
What? That's absurd. That is amazing here for JED. I imagine he's
5
going to take
seconds.
the analyst here.
There's also another underwater tunnel, though.
No, it looks like a peculiar lighthouse.
Draft
He
and
is
pass
taking the
6
tunnel.
cards to your left.
All right.
He's taking his medicine.
It's
here.
with the
He
crab.
needs more manifest.
No, he needs more enchantment triggers with the skull crab.
Pick up your cards. You have 10
Game
seconds.
plan acquired. If he mills somebody,
Wow, that's a late murder.
that is a late murder, but
You'll be
he's
happy
on the
with the
Flesh
Flesh Burrower.
Burrower. Yeah, again, the 2 drops that you mentioned.
Yeah, perhaps
Draft
JED
and
doesn't
pass
quite
5
have as
cards
much
to your left.
manifest as I think he has.
I think that's right. I think
Yeah,
that's why he
probably
took it. Yeah.
Pick up your cards.
It's no
You have
good if
10
you have all the
seconds.
payoffs but not enough manifest.
Exactly.
Normally, it works itself out.
Right.
Getting the manifest is normally the
Wow.
easy part.
This means nobody's in black-red, right?
Definitely.
Or there's not too many. Vengeful Possession this late.
Draft
It's one of the.
and pass 4
I think
cards
it
to your
might
left.
actually be the best removal spell if you have a good black-red deck with a bunch of sack outlets. So
Yeah.
surprised to see that card that late.
And we have seen those cards at the pod.
Pick
so
up your
it
cards,
is a
you have
little
5 seconds.
surprising to see still here. Cryptid
He's
Inspector,
gonna
Twist
take
Reality.
Twist Reality here.
Draft and pass 3
I'm not a
cards
huge
to
fan
your
of,
left.
of the Inspector in general. You need to have a ton of manifest. And given that this is a draft where he took the Slimy
Pick up
Aquarium
your
over
cards.
the Paranormal
You have
Analyst,
5
it tells me he
seconds.
doesn't have enough manifest for the
Exactly.
Cryptid Inspector to actually be good. Probably just hate drafting here or something.
Yeah,
Draft
just take a
and
duel
pass
just
2
so
cards to
somebody
your
can't
left.
splash something
Right.
against you because the Clammy
Pick up
Prowler's
your
not
cards,
really
you have
gonna be
5
really in
seconds.
any deck, actually.
No.
Creeping Peeper.
Probably the Storyteller.
Definitely takes Storyteller.
He's got
Draft,
enchantments.
he might
Turn
think-
3
Card to your
Aquarium.
left.
He
Reveal
might be
that card
thinking,
and add it to your
there
pile.
is an off chance that I run the Peeper, so yeah.
Players,
Okay,
I will
fair
need
enough.
you to do a few things for me before you can start building your deck. The very first thing is review all your cards to make sure that you have a stamp that is visible. The stamp does not need to be clear.
As you can see, the
You
head
just
judge was
need
taking
to
them
be
through the
able to
last
say,
stages
yes,
there
there is
to
a
make sure
stamp
that
somewhere on
everything's
that
on the
card.
up and up,
Please
but
do
that
that
means
for
that we get a chance to say, how was this draft?
Well, I think it started out a little shaky, right? He was trying to find his lane, but Pack 1 overall was fairly pretty weak. But then Pack 2 was amazing, right? You got a bunch of great uncommons there. And then Pack 3, starting out with the Worm and getting past the Bookworm, I think it really kind of rounded out into a pretty solid deck here. So I think he has the potential here to maybe go 3-0. We'll see. And let's take a look here.
Jean-Emmanuel definitely has the potential.
He always does, of
He's
course.
so good. The Skull Crab's in.
Skull Crab's in.
Yeah, that's his other 1-drop there with Patchwork Beastie. The Final Vengeance did make the cut, as you predicted. Both the Brute Spinner and the Comeback Wrong also in there. So
And
that
the
is all
Greenhouse
happening.
made it in.
So he did play the Greenhouse
Right, and he's playing 16 lands with 2 Landslide
and
cyclers.
the Chandelier.
And the Chandelier.
I mean, if
Okay.
you're going Greenhouse, or I should say Rickety Gazebo, like you want the Chandelier floating around somewhere.
Right. Oh, and he's got the keys to the house there, so lots of mana sources. Shouldn't have a problem there. Short up his weakness too. Look, you're looking at 5 2-mana plays that you can actually play. The Skull Crab is also an early play with the Monstrous Emergence. So solid curve, great late game. Right. If the games go late, you have 4 rooms in your deck.
Yeah.
So set up really nicely here.
This is interesting because what this really looks like conceptually is more like a ramp deck, where it has a bunch of action early and a whole bunch of action late, and the middle ground is kind of like we're skipping that part.
Right.
And yeah, they're going to have, or he's going to have tons of action there. All right, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back up, we'll be here with Jean-Emmanuel Depraz versus Erico. We'll be back.